So, how do I go about understanding what the Bible's saying? How do I interpret the Bible correctly? And it seems like a lot of people have different interpretations of what they're reading. So, how do I make sure I'm getting the right interpretation? We're going to discuss that in this video. Now, this video is a part of a larger series of videos called The Disciple. If you go to our YouTube channel, Bethel Pittsburgh, go under playlists, and you'll find a playlist called The Disciple. You'll notice that the videos in that playlist each have a title. The title is The Disciple, and then it has something after that. What comes after The Disciple is the category that video sits under. So all the videos are placed in category order, so you can navigate through looking for the category you want to be working in. This particular category is called hermeneutics. And so hermeneutics is the art of studying and interpreting Scripture. And you'll notice that there are a number of videos on hermeneutics above this one that we've walked through. Some other aspects of going about interpreting Scripture. Now, in this one, we're going to talk about literary styles, because it seems like there's different rules from different places in the Bible. It seems like there's different rules as to how I approach that particular book. And that's just it. The Bible isn't one book. If it was one book, maybe there wouldn't be working with different literary styles. But it's actually a collection of 66 books. Each of them have their own particular literary style that they're using. And we might say, well, still, I don't know why I can't just approach the Bible the same no matter where I am. That certainly would be more simple, but that's not the way the Bible was laid out for us. A way to understand this is to understand what I'm supposed to do with the ball in sports. So can I hold the ball? Can I walk and run while holding the ball? Can I throw it from out of bounds into the field of play? Can I kick the ball? All these depend on which sport and which angle of that sport I'm in. So, for example, can I hold the ball? In football, yes. So I could be the quarterback and I'm running around trying to look for a receiver to throw it to. I can hold the ball the entire time while running, walking, standing. If I'm the receiver and I catch the ball, I can now run while holding the ball, stand or walk. Same with the running back. If he is handed off the ball, he can run with the ball, walk, or stand while holding the ball. All of those things are appropriate in football. However, if I'm playing basketball, yes, I can hold the ball. If I'm holding it to throw it in bounds, if I'm holding it and not walking or running, waiting to look to pass the ball to somebody else or to shoot it, those are appropriate. But if I'm walking or running on the court, then I have to be dribbling the ball. I can't just hold it. If I'm playing soccer, if I'm the goalie, if I'm actually throwing the ball into the field of play from out of bounds, I can hold the ball. If I'm the goalie, I can hold the ball. I can even walk and move around while holding the ball. But if I am not the goalie and I'm in the field of play, I cannot not only hold the ball while moving, but I can't touch the ball with my hands at all. And so the rules change depending on where I am and what sport I'm playing. Can I throw the ball in from out of bounds? In soccer? Yes. In basketball? Yes. In football? No. You can't hold the ball out of bounds and throw it into the field of play. That is not allowed in football. Kicking the ball. In soccer, obviously, I can kick the ball. In football, I can kick the ball if I'm the kicker or the punter. But I can't, if I'm any other player, I can't just kick the ball. That's not allowed. And so there's a context to answer that question. But in basketball, I am never allowed to kick the ball. So again, there are different rules for each sport, and there are different rules for each player in each aspect of what's taking place in that game. The same is true with interpreting literature of any kind. There are different styles of writing and literature that require us to assume certain rules in order to work through it correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through just a summary of the different types of literary styles in the Bible. And I think the Bible actually includes most, if not all, of the types of literary styles. And then in future videos down the road, I'll do some interpretive exercises and hone in on each of those specific styles. So styles would be literal, speaking literally. So literally means what I'm saying is literally what I mean. So I walked through the room. And when I said that, I literally mean I walked through the room. But if I say things like eat your heart out, I don't literally mean to eat your heart. I mean eat food to your heart's content. And so that's being figurative. And both of those take place in the scripture, and I have to know, am I supposed to read this literally or figuratively? Is what I'm reading being informative, or is it commanding? So I might have told you I went to the restroom. I'm not telling you to do anything or commanding anything. I'm just telling you what took place. But if I told you, you need to go to the restroom now, well, that's a command. And so I have to know what's happening, because how I interact with it and how I respond to it is going to be impacted by whether or not this is just informative or this is commanding. Proverbs, actually, a good place to note that it does exist outside of Scripture would be Chinese cookies, like fortune cookies will have those fortunes inside of them. They're actually proverbs. Proverbs is a form of writing in which you're making observations and you're stating those observations about life in short form and often parallel. So you're saying this and this, and you're offering some contrast. For example, Proverbs will say, better is open rebuke than love that is concealed. Now, it's not telling us to openly rebuke people necessarily. It's just saying that if you'd have to choose between one or the other, it's better to openly rebuke someone than to have love and conceal it. And so when working through Proverbs, I have to know that that's a dynamic that's taking place instead of treating it like it's a command or a promise or a literal statement that's being made. Then there's things like songs. Think about modern songs. When you hear things in a song, you're not going to take it like a instruction manual, because you know that you've got different dynamics that are happening there. And songs exist in the Bible. They exist outside of Psalms, but many of the Psalms are written as songs, or at least that's the way they became compiled over time. Prophecy, I'm predicting something that will happen. I'm not saying something is or did happen. I'm saying it will happen. And there's different dynamics that are happening there that I have to be aware of when I'm reading a prophecy. Idioms are figures of speech, like the one I just used a moment ago, eat your heart out. That's a figure of speech. I don't literally mean that. And the Bible will use figures of speech. That's probably one of the genres that are the most difficult to interpret, because these are figures of speech that were used 2,000 years ago or more. And so, in large part, we're unfamiliar with these figures of speeches, and so we don't even know we're coming across them a lot of times. And so that's something to be aware of that exists inside the pages of the Bible. Comparisons, making a comparison to another thing. Jesus did that a lot in the form of what we called parables in the Gospels, where he's telling a story to illustrate a truth. You take things like Jesus said, just as Jonah was in the heart of the whale, so the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights, just like Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. And what we have to know is what Jesus' point is not that his death, resurrection experience is exactly the same as Jonah's experience in the fish, but that there was a similarity, and it was in something for 3 days. That's the only similarity. So he's drawing that comparison, not saying that every other detail is the same. And we have to know that, because some people will try to say, well, then if this happened with Jesus, that must have also happened with Jonah. No, there are specific things that are being compared. Then there's exaggerations or euphemisms, where someone is acting like something is like they annihilated everybody. And they're really trying to say how severe the victory was, or the devastation was, but they weren't actually given a numerical counting that there were no survivors whatsoever. And we have to know that hyperbole is existing there to draw the right conclusions. Narrative is when a story is being told. Some of the stories are historical fact, and some of the stories are just illustrative stories and stories made up to demonstrate some kind of truth. And we have to know when we're reading how to interact with these narratives. And narratives, just like in movies, they have a scene, they have a thing that's taking place in front of us. There's a plot to it. There's characters and different details about these characters, whether they're good, bad, indifferent, conflicted, all of those things. There's a setting to what's happening, and there's dialogue that's taking place. And I have to work with, when you're working with narratives, I have to work with multiple working parts and know what's happening in these working parts in order to draw the right conclusion from things that are happening inside the story. I can't just take a statement that was made in a story and say that that was a declarative command for everybody. I have to know what's taking place there. And then there's covenants. Covenants is where someone is forming a formalized contract with somebody else. And we have this take place in Scripture. And in covenants, we have to know who's making the covenant, who are they making the covenant with, what are the terms of the covenant, is it conditional, unconditional, who's it unconditional for and why, and I have to know those things because I can walk away saying this is guaranteed when not paying attention that this was in a covenant, a contract that had conditions. And so these are things I have to be aware of. Poetry uses a lot of symbolism and figurative language and things like that, and parallelism. You'll have repeated things, so it's not that something happened twice, it's just the same thing being said twice. You have that a lot in the Psalms, but you have it in other places like Song of Solomon is an example of that. And so we have to make sure that we're aware that we're in that kind of literary style. Another literary style is, actually, let me see, that might be the last one. Yeah, that was the last one. So those are the basic literary styles that we're interpreting. And the more we can be aware of those, the more we can know how to work with them to get the correct interpretation of what's taking place. Like I said, down the road, I'll do some exercises highlighting specific literary styles. But for now, that's the overview. So if you have any questions, please leave that in the comments below. Or if you would like to grow in your faith in person and you live in the Pittsburgh area, we'd love for you to join us. We are Bethel Assembly of God at 2501 Staten Street, Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. Or if you can't join us in person and you'd like to join us via live stream, we stream our Sunday morning 10 a.m. service live on our YouTube channel, Bethel Pittsburgh, and you're welcome to join us anytime. May God bless you.